Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
You are wearing my favorite color, girly.
I'm wearing you.
Oh my god. No wonder I was so like, this shirt is working on me for some reason, but there I am.
There's your face.
And there you are down there also.
Yeah, I'm not going to stand up.
Okay. Don't make me sing. Don't make me sing.
From shoulders to chest area, I look like a kind of not fat person. It's everything below.
So your preferred part of your
right.
You're upper third girl.
I'm a bowling pin shaped, I think is the
bowling pin shape. Okay, yeah. Juicy booty.
Star booty.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre. We take 2 weeks, we cram in as much as we can, info, movies, interviews, and then we regurgitate it all back to you. And yeah,
we have a good time. We have a good time. Okay.
Oh, and we tell you what we like and we don't like. Those are the things.
We do that too. Don't forget, the reviews are mixed. That is the name of the game. We took a little extra time off for this episode because
we were in recovery.
Yes, we were in recovery from. I was moving. Gavin and I were hosting a film festival. If you are a Patreon subscriber or patron or whatever the fuck we call them, you got our bonus episode about the film festival. But here we are.
Which reminds me, by the way, a part of our Patreon, if you become an all-star tier subscriber, we are to give a shout out to you on the show. So I do want to take a moment and thank Todd Fretch, who has become one of our all-star subscribers. Thank you so much, Todd. We're very happy to have you. If you have any suggestions about extra content that you want us to put out there, let us know. Because now you have access to the Discord, too, if you want to join the Discord. But thank you so much.
I was thinking, and me and Gavin have not talked about this off air. I'm going rogue right now.
Oh, shit.
I know. But we did talk a little bit on our bonus episode about playing a little bit of some reindeer games with our Patreon girlies. And so maybe we should do like a little holiday moment with the girls online playing some nonsense. Who knows? Could be fun. But also this gives you guys some time to perhaps join us on the Patreon. So for the holiday season, we can get together via the internet and play games.
Well, Louis, I want you to know my snap reaction is I don't like that. I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. I would be all down for that. You know me.
Yeah.
I could free up some time in my very busy schedule.
Yeah, you're booked and blessed, honey.
Yeah. What's the opposite of that?
Not booked, not blessed. I'm cursed.
And cursed.
So free and cursed. Available and cursed.
Yeah, but that's me. Currently, while we're still in the old business section, before we even get into talking about movies, I did want to take, this is the weirdest fucking segue in the world, but I'm gonna do it, gonna get serious for a moment. Since our last episode, it's been almost 3 weeks. There was a shooting at Club Q, and if you're asking why are they talking about that, that's old news. That's the problem. Ever since then, there's been armed fascists who shot up electric transformers to keep a drag show from happening, protests outside drag shows by armed men. These are a scary time. I know you come here for movies, but listen, when hours before that shooting happened on the day of Trans Remembrance, Louis and I were on stage at the Bowery Electric. We were introducing the film festival and we were talking about our show, and Louis said, our show is very gay, and some sweet person in the audience shouted out, like, and we love you for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that when that happened.
Yeah.
But it was so nice to feel comfortable and welcome in a space where we could be ourselves, and that's happening less and less, and we live in a really scary time, and I know people of color, women, queer folks, trans folks, non-binary folks, gay, lesbian, bisexual, two-spirit, we've felt this way for a really long time. Things are not looking great right now. So what I just need to say is, like, we are recommitting this show. It's going to be queerer than ever. I just want to put that out there. Louis and I recently had a conversation about that when we were starting the Patreon, and Louis was like, one of the things that makes our show special and unique is that it's queer. it's very gay. We can't help it. And I love that fact. But also what I'm going to need to do is, if you're a straight person in this audience, if we do have any straight listeners, hi
girls.
We need you to speak up as well too. We need your allyship. We need you out there saying things and doing things to make sure, this stuff doesn't happen. One of our listeners actually, after the Club Q shooting, I posted a thing about how very similar about how we need allies to speak up. One of our listeners, and I don't want to say her name because I don't want to put her on the spot, messaged me and said, you know what, this actually means a lot to me because I've been trying to think of ways that I could speak out as a straight woman. And she reposted that, and then she messaged me later to be like, hey, listen, I put this up, and people I know in my community who I haven't really felt connected with wrote to me and been like, I feel this way too. How can I help? That means so much. And we need that. We need your rallying and your support. And that's, I don't know if I have a bigger point than just to say, this show is queer and it's going to be here, but we need you as well. We need, your help.
Right.
That's all. I don't know. I've been very emotional today and these past 3 weeks about it. And it's awful. It's awful what's happening right now. And I know this is mostly not anything new, but it feels more frequent and therefore scarier. And yeah, I am a little scared, but I'm also mad. And I need, we need your support. By the way, same listener sent us a Halloween card this year, and I do want to say thank you for that. So if you're listening, we know who you are, and thank you for that. Right. Your kids are adorable.
Right. I posted about this after the shooting happened. I'd been to Club Q before. I used to live in Colorado Springs, and I texted my then boyfriend. We had gone together to see a show, and I was just like, this is very bizarre. Obviously it's 10 years after the fact, whatever. But that was a safe space for us to go and have fun. So I know, especially in that town and what in small towns, what it's like to have those spaces and how important they are. And so, yeah, that's really fucking scary. And I'm thinking about how we have now done probably more shows where these things have happened right before or right around, and it's really emotional and heavy. But yeah, just to kind of redouble down on what Gavin said, we want like Club Q and all those spaces are for queer people. This is a space for you guys as well. And we're not going to shut up about it. So in solidarity and all those good things, thank you guys for being here. And let's keep having fun.
Absolutely. I know it's hard to transition out of that. I know I kind of sprung that on you, but it's just been ruminating on me. I didn't plan to say anything. I didn't, but I was just like, these are things we do need to address because, like you said, it meant a lot to me when we were having that conversation. You were like, our show's queer as hell. And it's like, yeah, and as it should be. And hopefully people come to this place. They come to this place.
Yeah.
Like Nicole Kidman in a theater. Yes. I want people to stand up and clap when they hear our podcast because they feel welcomed.
Stand and deliver, honey.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Before we have one last old business before we get to our poll from last week. We have a couple new reviews. And as I've said many times before, if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple, we will read it on the show. So do you want to read that first one, Louis?
Sure. This is, it says, essential podcast for queer film lovers. The amount of work Gavin and Louis put into each episode is truly amazing, but they don't make it sound like research. It's always a fun time at the mixed reviews. More importantly, the queer perspective is what makes this podcast extra special. Love you guys. That's from Candy Mulligan in the US of A. That's exactly what we're talking about. So,
exactly. Yes. I think that's what sort of inspired me to want to talk about it too, was that's what we're doing here. That's the perspective we can put on things that's different than every other film bro. And that's the other thing I saw this week. I saw a lot of film bros out in full force, mad about the Sight and Sound poll. Not that you guys come here for the Sight and Sound poll, but
oh God.
Yeah, they let women in. They let black people make movies, and it's like, yeah, guys, welcome to the 21st fucking century.
Imagine being more boring. Imagine.
I know.
Oh, God.
Our next review says, quite simply a joy. I'm so thrilled to discover the Mixed Reviews podcast. I love Gavin and Louie's insightful takes, and they make me laugh. Garbage has now entered the family vernacular. I also really
when you hear
appreciate
your family.
Exactly. I also really appreciate the deep dive on some of my favorite actresses. Kirsten Dunst, Parker Posey, Juliette Lewis, and Joan Cusack, to name a few. Can't wait to hear what comes next. And that's Lauren from Australia.
Lauren, excellent taste. Those girlies you plucked out.
Yeah. And I love that
very good.
It's from all over. It's not like
Kirsten Dunst, literally our first episode.
Yeah.
And then like Juliette and Joan, who we did like maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lauren. I love hearing from our international listeners because I know they're out there, but sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, we like people listen to this show. All of our tens of listeners.
Okay, last thing, we asked you guys to vote online about our last episode, which was all about Lindsay Lohan, which was a super fun episode. We had the guys on from the
Old Kids Movie Podcast.
The Old Kids Movie Podcast. I was going to say the Grown Up Kids Movie Podcast. So I was like, that's a mouthful. No.
They are not grown-ups. We determined that.
My friend just old kids.
I will say, just between us girlies, my friend Tim was like, there was a clear generation gap while listening to that episode. And I was just like, well, thank you.
They are blocked, banned, cannot come back onto the show. These children.
We're kidding. We love you guys, both AJ and Trevor. But
they keep us young. They keep us young.
I did just hear the bell for recess. So if you guys want to make sure
your way back to the classroom.
Yeah, exactly.
We asked you guys to vote online for your favorite Lindsay Lohan movie, and here are the results. We had 1% other. I don't know. Someone, I guess, did mention that they really enjoyed her in A Prairie Home Companion.
That's certainly other.
That is other. Freaky Friday came in third place with 11%. Parent Trap, which was my pick, at 30%. And then Mean Girls at 58%. Mean Girls, this kind of just is, the all-time banger.
Going into that one, I was like, I'm going to pick Mean Girls. And I think it's probably the most generic, but also like, I don't know. I think it perfectly shows her range. And I think but hey, we have her back now, and maybe she'll be, who knows? Maybe she'll be in PTAs next. Who knows?
Oh my God. She did, after our episode, she did premiere another movie. It's the Pilk commercial, starring Pepsi and Milk. Her line readings of naughty, nice, iconic work.
She's really getting that Meisner technique down. Yeah, it's very good of her.
Yeah. I will be having Pilk all Christmas season. Thank you for asking. I will be also needing Pepto-Bismol and all sorts of stomach enhancements to digest that.
I think if I had to drink a lot of Pilk, there would be a lot of puke. I think that's
I wish there was a better word than Pilk. You know?
That's what it makes me think of. Apparently there's a big history to Pilk too. It like goes back to like Laverne and Shirley and possibly even before that. Like, Pilk, this is what you came for.
Yeah, baby. But okay, thank you, Lindsay Lohan. Good luck in the future. Gavin, we asked our Patreon girlies to decide our next episode, today's episode, and the results came in. And the results were clear. It is Mr. Don Cheadle. That's who we're here to talk about. This is our first Patreon voted on subject, and they picked a good one.
Absolutely. Now, they were up against Hugh Jackman, so if you were sad that Hugh Jackman lost, I'm sure he'll be coming back, singing and dancing down the line some later point in time. But we're going to talk about Don Cheadle. And also, just as a quick ad for our Patreon, if you want voting power, if you want to be able to tell us what to do, sign up for our Patreon, and you can vote on these things. We did get our former guest, Kevin, who's in our Juliette Lewis episode, reached out to me and said, I voted Don Cheadle, so you'll be forced to talk about Crash.
Oh, God. Kevin, how dare you? I feel like every time Crash comes up on the show, we kind of breeze by her.
Yeah. We got the Sandra, and we were like,
Brendan
no, thank
Fraser.
you. Brendan, we were like, no.
Sure, yeah. The good thing about Crash is that there's no main character. And so, we don't have to talk about a lot about anyone in Crash.
He did produce it, though.
Donald?
Yeah. Oh, no. We'll get into it.
Donald
I think
Cheadle.
I think one of the reasons that we're doing Don Cheadle, besides the fact that he does have a new movie coming out next month, White Noise, which premiered at New York Film Festival. I cut all the behind the scenes stuff at New York Film Festival for it, but unfortunately I did not get a chance to see the movie because I was so busy. But I will say, like, there was so much hype, so much buzz around it. He was there. But yeah, he's just sort of eternally cool and charismatic, and it's such an incredibly talented actor. And, you know, we're going to get into it. I think there's been certain things that have sort of held him back, which is really unfortunate because I had a hard time finding a movie or a performance that I didn't like. He really gives it his all. He really puts his whole Cheadle-ussy into it. No, not going to happen.
The Cheadle-ussy?
The Cheadle-ussy?
I don't like it, Gavin. If we had straight listeners, they're gone now.
They're gone now. They turned it off.
Yeah, I think he's immensely talented, very cool. I was thinking about like how he is such a he slips into easily doing character work, but also he's very easily doing like just capital S star celebrity work where he's just like we're jumping ahead, but like him in the Marvel movies is just Don Cheadle, and it's fine, because Don Cheadle's great. He's doing the Robert Downey Jr. He's just being famous and handsome and I
have things to say about that. I have things to
pop off.
Yeah,
pop off, honey. But yeah, I Don Cheadle for me has always been one of the actors that's just kind of always been there. He's always kind of like in these big ensemble things where it's like, oh, Don Cheadle. It's only like recently or maybe like in the past, for me at least, where he's getting like these big starring roles. So yeah, I think it'll be very interesting.
And also, he's one of the few actors I think that seamlessly moved from TV to film, and then also back and forth between TV and film without it being a big deal or anything. So much so that I feel like the movie star Don Cheadle made me sort of consciously forget the TV star Don Cheadle from the past, because I'd completely forgotten that he's Will Smith's friend on Fresh Prince, that he did that entire season, The Golden Palace. He was on Picket Fences for years.
But more recently, I loved Black Monday. He is so good in that. I didn't watch his other show. What was his other show?
Funny enough, so I've not watched Black Monday because I just haven't had the time, but I have watched the entirety, except for some reason, the last episode of House of Lies, which was the show. Yeah, which was the show that he did with Jean-Ralphio. I'm sure he has a real name, but he will always be Jean-Ralphio.
And Veronica Mars.
And Veronica Mars.
They don't have real names. No, not at
all. But anyways, let's get into our rewind and talk a little bit more about the career of Mr. Don Cheadle. Donald Frank Cheadle Jr. was born November 29th, 1964, making him a cool 58 years old. So he's real young.
Yeah.
Unless you're Kevin Hart. Damn! That was did you see that interview that went around a couple of years ago? Where,
yeah.
And what's funny is that caused a media sensation. Don Cheadle was very upset. And it's no, he's acting.
Yeah.
And in the words of Tammy Brown, ha, 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 I'm acting.
Yeah.
But he was born in Kansas City, Missouri, to Betty Cheadle, who was a teacher, and Donald Frank Cheadle Sr., who was a clinical psychologist. He has a sister named Cindy and a brother named Colin. I know that they wanted a junior, but they named their other two children C's. And I wonder what
You're so...
Don. They moved around a lot as he was a kid. A lot of the South. They ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska at one point in time, where he went to school from 70 to 74. He graduated in 1982 from East High School in Denver, Colorado. During high school, he played saxophone in a jazz band, sang, and he was active in the theater department, performing in musicals, plays, and mime shows.
Imagine being the mime kid in high school.
Yeah, it does. What is the hierarchy of that? There's drama, speech and debate, mime.
But then there's also AV Club and then mime.
AV Club mime. Correct. Yeah. Sorry, high school mimes. Apologize to the Union of High School Mimes.
There are pictures of him as a mime. Have you seen them?
There absolutely are. I saw him on Ellen, which, to preface, I watched the interview of him on Ellen because Wanda Sykes was hosting. And he, like, Wanda Sykes is just absolutely tearing into him about it.
We did a mime show in high school. In my theater class, our teacher was very...
Oh, Don. Oh, Don.
Oh, like y'all all didn't do mine. Now y'all gonna act like y'all ain't do mine. You know everybody in here did mine.
No what?
Stop it, Swift.
And you don't tell people. You don't tell people you did mine.
I wasn't gonna tell people. This is your researchers digging up stuff on me and putting it on screen to embarrass me. But I killed in that one. That one was great.
Cheadle went on to attend the California Institute of the Arts, graduating with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater in 1986. Which is crazy because I was born just like 3 years before that. Cheadle became eligible for his Screen Actors Guild card when he appeared as a burger joint employee in the 1985 comedy Moving Violations. I watched this movie. He is in one scene. He's literally like in a drive-through window. Also, terrible movie. It stars Bill Murray's younger brother doing a Bill Murray impression.
Good. Okay, great.
Yeah. I think I heard that he had started points for equity while he was in college, like doing equity type stuff. And so he, before he even got out of college, it was
like a working actor.
Yeah. He could get his equity card, which, you know, never happens for people. So it's cool that his school offered that.
Right. It's also like he's hearing, like learning this about him is like, oh yeah, he does give off like very LA vibes. Like he's not a New York actor. No. He is a California actor.
But I do think he's very serious about his craft. I do think there is a part of him that recognizes that, you know, this is a job that he's very lucky to do, but also he's incredibly talented, which is why he keeps getting good jobs from it and work.
I know people come up to me and say, you know, hey man, I want to do what you, I want to be an actor, and I'm like, how can I be an actor? And I go, do you want to be an actor, or do you want to be a star or a celebrity, or like, well, I'm like, are you acting right now? Are you in anything? Are you in plays? Are you auditioning for plays? Do you read plays? Are you reading scripts? Do you go to Sam French and grab stuff and see what you can work on? I'm like, that's all working. That's all doing acting work. Now, you know, yes, maybe you're not on a TV show or somebody hasn't put you in a film, but if you think that's the only way acting happens, it's probably going to be one or two things are going to happen. You're never going to get that shot, or you're going to get that shot and then very quickly they're going to see that you're this deep and you have nothing to bring to the game.
During this time, there's a lot of bit parts popping up in places. He's on Hill Street Blues. He does an episode of Night Court. He does the movie Hamburger Hill, which is another movie I watched, which I'm pretty sure he had 3 lines in, but he's in the movie a lot.
And he's like in his 20s, right? Like he is younger.
Absolutely. He plays the role of Rocket in the 1988 movie Colors, in which he's the main villain of the film, and I'm pretty sure he had no lines.
What the fuck?
I was like, what? It's a movie about gang violence. It's not great. It's very dated. In 89, he appeared in the music video for Angela Winbush's #2 single hit, It's the Real Thing. He has been seen dancing in this video. It's very funny. He's got the moves. And if you are on our Patreon, you will see them. If you're just listening, sorry. But just imagine they're great.
I want to look at it right now.
In 90 is when he gets his sort of breakout, when he's cast on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, in an episode titled Homeboy, Sweet Homeboy, playing Will Smith's friend and Hillary's first love interest, Ice Tray.
Right.
And what's funny about this is he said that they liked his character so much that they decided to give him a spin-off.
They said, we want to do a pilot. We want to, you know, base it around you. And it was kind of a crazy experience. And we shot a pilot, and it never got on the air.
The pilot didn't get on the air. Is this where you were going to be Ice Tray?
I actually know they changed the character. The pilot was called In the House. They went later. They gave that title to LL Cool J's show In the House, and he did that.
Right.
So yeah, NBC was for a minute. They were going to be my champions, and then Brandon Tartikoff left and Warren. You guys don't want all this minutia.
No. Brandon Tartikoff, one of the great broadcasting geniuses of all time.
That's right. He was the president there, and then he left, and Warren Littlefield came in, and then Warren Littlefield.
That's how the business works.
And he said, you know, he gave his brother his car, his younger brother. He was like, yeah, I'm about to make so much more money.
I'm making it. Bye.
And so he gives Colin this car, and then it gets
Flopzilla.
canceled. And I guess Colin offered him his car back, and he was like, nope, this is a teaching moment.
Yeah. I mean,
Don't count your
Jesus.
chickens before they hatch.
And then other spin-off, Golden Palace, which I don't know if I completely understood. So Golden Palace is a Golden Girls spin-off, but without B. Arthur? And
Correct.
that's it?
So when Golden Girls ended, it ended because B. Arthur didn't want to be on the show anymore. And so initially, and this is maybe too long for this episode, but if it is, I'll cut it out. Essentially, NBC offered them 14 episodes for this spin-off about the girls selling the house and buying a sort of rundown hotel to take it over. And they were like, well, we want to do a full season. And CBS counter-offered with a full season. And NBC was like, we're not going to do it. So the show moved networks as well.
Oh.
And in order to replace B. Arthur, at first, it's Don Cheadle, Cheech Marin, and a little boy. And luckily, I've actually just recently watched all of the Golden Palace. It's actually very good. It's
recently watched all of the Golden Palace?
Yeah. Dan, my boyfriend, has been watching Golden Girls for about 5 years now, and he made it to the point where he finished Golden Girls and I was like, let's watch the Golden Palace. And it's all the same writers, so it's very much in the same vein. I will say, I love Don Cheadle. He's not B. Arthur. He does not deliver those asides as well.
She is a elderly woman,
Right.
and he is a young black man.
Right, but they're not playing the same character. Like, he's the manager at the hotel. Cheech Marin is the chef at the hotel.
But again, he's the manager of a hotel, and he's like 23, 25.
But they do give him those dead. You should watch it.
Oh, he's like a deadpan. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
they give him those deadpan. Like, one of my favorite line deliveries was at one point, his parents are coming to tell him something, and he's like, oh, they're probably coming to tell me the dog died. She was 23. And Rose goes, oh, what did he die of? And he goes, smoking, Rose. And I was like, that line would have landed harder if it was B. Arthur. But
sure.
This show did eventually sort of work its way back into the zeitgeist a couple years ago during all the major protests, because there's an episode they do about the Confederate flag.
Roland, I don't feel like that woman in there. I don't feel that way at all.
But can't you see, Blanche, that flag ties what you believe and what she believes together. Look, I'm telling you, the legacy of that flag is alive every time I walk down the street with a group of my friends and I see a white person cross over to the other side because they're afraid. Or look, when I'm in the elevator with somebody like you and you're all huddled over in the corner wondering what I'm gonna do, sometimes I just want to go, oh. Just to break the tension. So please don't tell me about that flag. I've battled that flag all my life.
This was like 92.
Yeah.
And they did an entire episode about how uncomfortable it made. Like, Don Cheadle's character quits at one point because he's like, I won't work for somebody who has these morals.
Yep.
And it's not perfect. It definitely like wraps itself up like, we solved racism in 22 minutes. But I did just recently read an interview with him where the interviewer asked him about that episode. And he's like, was I happy with that episode? No. Was I happy that they even wanted to talk about it? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy.
He then, after the Golden Palace is canceled after one season, he ends up playing the district attorney, John Littleton, for 3 seasons on Picket Fences. And he decides to leave Picket Fences because, as he tells David E. Kelley, like, nothing weird ever happened. Like, Picket Fences is about a small town, but all these weird things were always happening. Well, he was this district attorney, and David E. Kelley was like, yeah, well, you're the heart of the show. So, like, weird stuff can't happen to you. You have to do all the moralizing. And Don Cheadle was like, that's boring.
Yeah, Don was like, boo, bye.
So he up and leaves that, and he immediately gets an audition for Devil in the Blue Dress in 1995. Devil in the Blue Dress was written and directed by Carl Franklin, who had Don Cheadle in his thesis film when he was graduating college. So he like knew to call Don Cheadle. They like happen to run into each other, funny enough, in like a doctor's office.
I'm at a ear, nose, and throat doctor, and the door swings open, and it hits me in the leg, and it's Carl Franklin. And you can look back at the time and see that there are very few parts for Black actors that were in the vein of things I wanted to necessarily keep doing. You know, it's like, how many roles do I want to play where I have a gun in my hand? or I'm on the receiving end of it. You know, either I'm the cop shooting or I'm the dude getting shot or I'm a dude running from it. I'm like, I'm good with that. So I didn't want to do a ton of those. So it made it a very picky, you know, I was very picky and choosy. And I was fortunate that a lot of the things that I picked, I got to do. But it wasn't like the floodgates open. It wasn't like there was a bump and then you're on easy street. You know, it was like, no, it's going to be a grind. And that agent that took me on then, I even told him, he's a very big agent. And he's like, you're good. And I was like, you don't understand how much work this is going to be. And he's like, no, it's going to be good. I was like, you'll see. And it's a grind.
He plays a character named Mouse, who is a friend of Denzel Washington, who sort of, it's done like a film noir, and Denzel Washington sort of finds himself as a reluctant detective. And so he calls his friend Mouse to sort of be his heavy, and he hasn't realized that Mouse has basically lost it, and Mouse will kill anybody that he feels he needs to. And there's a point towards the end of the movie where Denzel Washington asks somebody else, he's like, can you still be friends with somebody that you know is a bad person? And it's this interesting dynamic. He doesn't have a ton of scenes in the movie, I will say, but he leaves quite an impact because he's just, it's not like a huge performance. He keeps it internal, but you feel kind of scared for Denzel when he's alone in a room with Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
What the hell is wrong with you, man? Don't you ever grab me when I got a gun in my hand. Shit. You got blood on my coat, Easy. It's a damn expensive coat.
I always love when like the heavy has like a diminutive name like Mouse. It's funny.
He wins Best Supporting Actor from the Los Angeles Film Critics Association and the National Critics Society of Film Critics, and also earned a nomination from the Screen Actors Guild and the NAACP Image Awards for that role. And so like really I feel like that's sort of his coming out party.
Yeah.
He does a TV movie about Earl the Goat Manigault. I actually just watched that today. It's fine.
I saw half of it and I was like, enough.
Yeah.
Enough.
It's available on YouTube if you want to see it. Like I said, it's an HBO movie. He then gets cast in John Singleton's historical drama Rosewood and the disaster film Volcano. Rosewood is like a real starring role. Volcano is like sidekicky to Tommy Lee Jones's sort of gruff, like, oh, there's a volcano under LA. I mean, out of these two, I think Rosewood is a genuine classic. Volcano's a bad movie that Don Cheadle's good in.
It's wild because, like, you know, early 90s, he really was, you know, he kind of just makes such a big splash from Devil in the Blue Dress that it seems like he's having a really like great moment because, you know, there's a couple of movies on HBO that he makes in this era. And he's the leading man on that. And then like for movies, you know, he's maybe not getting like the starring moment, but like he's just like a good like weapon to have in the arsenal of these like kind of mid-budget movies. Which I mean, like that same year he does Boogie Nights, which we talked about in our PTA episode. And he's great.
He's so good. And he's hard to like, not like it's not that he's hard to look away from, but the things that he's doing in that movie are so specific to the character he's playing that there are points in that movie I remember thinking like, what's going on with him? Like, where is he? What's like when he shows up looking like Rick James, you know,
so like there's him selling the stereo systems, like so good. There's him like at is it a donut shop?
Yeah, in the white suit. Like,
yeah, that it's so fucking tense.
Yeah,
but he's so good. And you know, we talk a lot about that movie. Like I said in our PT episode, but like him specifically, really just holding his own against a lot of these heavy hitting actors, you know, and being able to like. I mean, I guess it's not hard. He's like the only black man in that movie.
Yes, yeah.
But like he's making his character very singular, specific, you know, really carving space out amongst all these larger than life characters. But that's what I also mentioned to say, like he does do character acting very well, I think. You know, he loves a good like accent. He loves, you know, doing like the kooky booky shit. Yeah, and I think that's a good example of that.
Yeah, and also because you did mention in their other TV films, he does A Lesson Before Dying, which we talked about in our Cicely Tyson episode, and I think he's okay in it. It's a great book. It really is. If I can impart that on people, read the book, you know.
I watched it for this episode, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. We're learning things.
The following year, after Boogie Nights, he appears in Out of Sight. It's a adaptation of Elmore Leonard's novel, and it is the first of, I think, 6 movies that he does with Steven Soderbergh.
We talked about this in our Jennifer Lopez episode.
Yeah, I love this. This is not because Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney are so hot in this movie, and I rarely think about Don Cheadle or anybody else in this movie.
Anybody else.
And the funny thing is like there are a lot of really good, but this is that area that you're talking about. Like he gives a good character performance. Yeah. But it's not like spotlight stealing. It's not showy.
Sure.
And so like it's hard to. I love Out of Sight, so this is not a knock on it, but it's just there's so much like they could melt snow. They're so hot together. Electric, absolutely. In 1998, he portrays Sammy Davis Jr. in the TV movie The Rat Pack. It won him a Golden Globe and earned him an Emmy nomination. This movie is all on YouTube. I remember watching it with my mom when it came out on HBO. I rewatched it for this. I don't think it's very good. I think he's doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. He's odd casting for Sammy Davis Jr., but the big swing of the movie is everybody's odd casting. You have Ray Liotta as Frank Sinatra. You have Joe Mantegna as Dean Martin. It's this wild sort of casting where no one really looks like they're supposed to. But I will say, like, he had to learn how to play drums. He had to learn how to play the trumpet. He had to learn how to tap dance, and he was the last person cast in this movie. He did all that in 3 weeks.
I never even saw your skin color, you idiot. I'm not your friend.
Listen, sometimes Frank and the guys, they cross the line. Okay, and yes, sometimes it hurts. So I get a little dirt on my uniform. So what? The point is I'm circling the bases. And the fellas that come up behind me, they're gonna have it easier. Can't you see that?
In the future, we're going to see him taking on a lot of real life Black American icons. And I guess I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like something he's very passionate about. As we go on later and hear about his Miles Davis movie, like just the passion he has for these people and wanting to tell their stories. So I can see, like, you know, this is like the little beginnings of that vibe. And
well, I think, and I guess because we're here, I think it's a good time to talk about it. I think he is somebody who there isn't and I think this is a very good thing, and I think you should do this if you're truly an artist, but there isn't a separation from what he believes and his art. Yeah. And so I think that you see a lot, specifically in his career, you see a lot of real people, a lot of people that we might not know as much about in terms of history, that whose stories are important. And on the other side of that, you see a lot of fictional people who are in jobs of like helping people. You see a lot of, like psychiatrists, professors, social workers, that sort of. And so I think what he does, and I don't think he like looks at every script and is like, how can this help humanity? But I think what draws him in, what connects him to certain characters is like, hey, this person is doing this thing and I can put some illumination on it. Which is not to say that I'm sure he could still play a villain now, but he spends so much of his early part of his career playing criminals. I mentioned Colors. I mentioned Out of Sight. He's I don't think that's what he wants to do. I don't think he wants to be like, I'm the black guy, so I'm a bad guy. I think it's different when you're in like an Ocean's movie and like the bad guys are the good guys and it's like a team of, but like I do think that he's more interested in telling the stories of people that are actively trying to help or change things. And so I think that's part of it.
I think I'm somewhat defined by my race for sure, and I'm good with that, and I actually want that to be a part of whatever story. I don't believe in colorblind casting, I think that that's something that is something that should be fodder for your work. We should use all aspects of ourselves. So I'm always trying to find the place where that actually has an impact on what I'm doing, as opposed to going, well, we're all just people and we're the same and I have the same issues you have.
It needs to be said, like, Don Cheadle is a very dark-skinned black man, And I think there are a lot of movies even where he is straight up being like, actually, no, my childhood was not growing up in the hood. Like, I'm highly educated. Try again, bitch. And so I think that is reflected in his movies. And like, it's funny, coming up, he's in a movie that I have a soft spot for, and please no one make fun of me for it, Gavin. I like Mission to Mars a lot.
I'm not gonna make fun of you for it, because I'd seen it before and I was like, yeah, that was fine, whatever. I rewatched it today and I was like, you know what, this is a good movie. I was like, yeah.
I watched it on like in middle school on a bus trip somewhere, and I was like so taken by it. And watching it again this time, number one, I was like, oh, like, Don Cheadle is the lead astronaut in it.
Yes.
Gets, lost. They rescue him. He's still alive. He
Take
survives.
That, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Whatever,
hair.
The Martian.
What I think about Mission to Mars, I think about how this movie, I enjoy it because it's kind of like a comic book or graphic novel. Like, it is not like movies today where you have to, it's not a big think movie. Like, this movie is going to tell you exactly why this thing happened. It's not like, oh, love is the fourth dimension. It's
right.
It's literally like,
I love
it's
you for
literally
that.
like Martians, their planet was dying. They sent, DNA. Like, it is gonna hold your hand, and like, maybe that's annoying to some people, but like, I think for a lot of people it's very satisfying to be like, oh, this is why this happened, and it all makes sense. It all works for me.
Yeah.
When that guy fucking takes off the helmet and just like, you gotta go back, and he just like fucking kills himself in space, it gtes me every time.
That's because love is the fifth dimension, Louis.
Okay, it's the fourth dimension. Crazy. Smelling is the fifth dimension.
That's senses, you dummy.
No.
In 2000, he has two major roles. He stars as Montel Gordon, a DEA agent in Traffic, and the aforementioned Luke Graham in Mission to Mars. I guess we didn't really talk about Traffic, but Traffic is another ensemble piece. It gets nominated for Best Picture, like, plays big at the Academy Awards. His second collaboration with Steven Soderbergh. I feel like Traffic is sort of best left for like a Steven Soderbergh episode, not for Don Cheadle. But he's good in it.
Yeah, I think like this era, I mean, what? Next up we have Ocean's 11. Again, like, big ensemble thing. I think he's great in it. I think he definitely is right at the level of Clooney and Brad Pitt with his like rakish kind of like silly Billy, hot guy.
His terrible British accent, just the word. What's funny is in the same interview I read that he has adopted the internet theory. Somebody tweeted at him in 2019 that the reason his accent is so bad in the Oceans movie is because it's a cover. That he's actually an American pretending to be British. And he's like, absolutely right.
She's like, you got me, gal.
You got me, gal.
Hey, is Danny about?
Yeah, he's waiting around the corner.
Oh, it's terrific. It'll be nice working with proper villains again.
Everybody down! Get it!
They weren't expecting that shit.
The behind the scenes isn't as cozy as everybody thinks it is, unfortunately, because he is working with Soderbergh, who's a director he's worked with twice before. Traffic, aforementioned, gets all these accolades. He goes into Ocean's 11 and he's like, I want my name above the title, just like George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts. Like, I think I deserve that. I think I'm at the point in my career where I deserve that. And the studio was like, absolutely not. And he's like, great, don't put my name on it at all. And so he goes uncredited in Ocean's 11. He does not have a credit in the closing credits, not in the opening credits. Don Cheadle is in that entire movie. Luckily, he's able to negotiate before signing any contracts for the sequels, and his name does appear above the name for both Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13.
That's a gag.
But what's the difference? What is the thing that makes Don Cheadle different than George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon? Like,
yeah,
it's glaring. It's glaring. And like,
Yeah.
what does it cost? What does it cost the studio to put another name above the title?
Right. It's
Nothing.
this. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That
I mean,
stuff drives me crazy.
I'm glad that he, for the sequels and all that. But also part of me is like, it took that long because why? He made other success. Like literally, the movies he's in are all making money. They're all successful. Like commercially, critically. Like, what's the fucking deal?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's embarrassing. If I was
embarrassing.
Soderbergh, I would be apoplectic about that every time I saw Don Cheadle. I'd be like, I am so sorry that this happened. And I know they've worked together since, obviously. They've done 6 movies together. But I would just be like, every time I would feel it in the pit of my stomach.
Right.
I'd be like, Anyways, he made a guest appearance on the 9th season of ER, playing the role of Paul Nathan, a medical student who suffers from Parkinson's. The performance was nominated for an Emmy Award in the category of Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series. I only want to bring that up because our listener, Chels, gets very mad when we don't bring up that somebody guest starred on ER. And he did get an Emmy nom for it. So
Specifically about ER?
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember what episode it was. There was some episode we did, and she was like, they did not bring up the ER arc. And I was like, okay, well.
Okay, work. Also worth noting that Don Cheadle casually does have nominations for all of the EGOT awards.
Yes. He's one of the few people who's been nominated for all of them, but he only has 2.
Right. He has a Tony and a Grammy, which is cuckoo bananas.
I believe he might even have 2 Grammys, but the Grammys are for like spoken word things, and the Tony is because he's a producer on Strange Loop with RuPaul and
Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them for getting on that the train of that. In 2005, Cheadle was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Paul Rusesabagina in the film Hotel Rwanda. I saw Hotel Rwanda when it came out. This was, 2005. It was like my senior year in college or my junior year in college. And I remember watching it and being very emotionally moved. I watched it again, and I think there is definitely some pitfalls in the movie. It definitely is one of those movies that wants to be like, and then everything's okay in the end. And it's like, wait a second. This movie's about genocide. Also, some of the things about the character he played that have come out since, sort of downplay his involvement and such. But we're not here to litigate that because we are a film podcast. So, but I think it's a good performance though, and like his wife, who's played by Sophie Okonedo, who was also nominated. Like, I fucking love her. Like, yeah,
that movie does not have a bad performance in it.
No. That's true. Nick Nolte, like rolling in Joaquin Phoenix, who I totally forgot was in the movie.
I know. It was a jump scare to see him there, but I was like, oh, okay, work. I had never seen Hotel Rwanda. I was too scared to watch it.
It's frankly. Not, I will say, for having the trappings of a kind of award baity drama that's about a real and tragic subject, it's not as pull on your heartstrings as it could be.
Right. It's also not as like horrific as it could be.
Which I also think is maybe one of the downfalls, which is I don't want to sit through horror and depression, but I think it's also hard to make a PG-13 movie about a genocide, and that's what it is. So
yeah. I think I didn't want to see it because I was afraid that it was going to be very much, I mean, it is a horrible, the things that happened in Rwanda, horrifying. And I think, though, I do think the movie does a good job of being like, they do not let the white people off the hook. They are very clearly like, oh no, the whole reason why this is happening is because of white people. And then on top of that, like, oh, you think anyone's going to come help us, girl? No one's going to care. No, there is no help. They are going to grab the white people and go, and we are stuck here in this shit. So at least, the movie does do that. And so I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty powerful. I don't know anything about like beyond what the movie tells me about what happened.
That's definitely, we live in a very ethnocentric country, and we don't get taught in schools about other countries, genocides like this. And perhaps we should. Our world history is Not to say anything bad about public schools, but like
We're poor.
Exactly. That same year, he co-produces Crash, as well as stars in it as one of several stars because it's a movie in which there's like 20 people you can blame for.
Wait, so does he not get an Oscar for producing Crash?
I think because he's a co-producer. I think only executive producers, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know.
But maybe because he gets a co-producer credit, he does not get
the Oscar.
a Oscar. Yeah, I don't really know how the credits for that work, come to think of it. But yeah, Crash. So I guess we're going to talk about it. But one thing I do want to say right before in 2001, he does the original production of Susan Laurie Park's Top Dog Underdog off Broadway.
He was the original?
Yes, he played Booth with Jeffrey Wright playing Lincoln. And it's a fantastic play. I actually just saw the revival yesterday. It is the 20-year revival on Broadway right now. And it's a really fantastic show. And he does not transfer to Broadway with it because he's busy with projects. I have not been able to find out what he was busy with. But
you have suspicions.
I have suspicions it was Crash, which is really unfortunate. He was replaced by Mos Def, also known as Yaslin Bey, and I think I'm sure Mos Def was amazing. I love Mos Def, and but I would have like. There's a great 1 hour. It's not great. Clearly, a lot of it's staged, but there's a good behind the scenes documentary about the transfer to Broadway called The Top Dog Diaries that you can watch on, I think, both Tubi and YouTube for free. And it's worth seeing also because Susan Laurie Parks is like just fucking amazing, and watching her talk about herself.
Icon. Yeah, she's an icon. I saw the show like in the Berkshires, like, and it was. I mean, it's two years ago.
You were vacationing in the Berkshires?
I was, honey. I had a little theater summer roundabout, and they were doing a production up there, and it was. I was like, that show will shake you right the fuck up.
But yeah, Crash. What do you say about Crash? Crash is maybe the most maligned movie to ever win the Academy Award, besides The Greatest Show on Earth.
But also besides fucking Green Book.
Yeah. We've had worse since.
I feel like it's these movies that are trying to grapple with like race,
right,
in America.
We both watched Grand Canyon for this show, so we know like
it's like Stumbleisha vibes. I mean, I remember watching this in high school and being like, wow, powerful. And then you watch it again and it's just shock value with very little actual value, like emotional value. I mean,
it's so funny because it's so misguided. And I'm aware that Paul Haggis, who wrote and directed, who's having his own problems right now, and I will not go into but Google Paul Haggis, but he has since left the Church of Scientology, but he has talked about how this was a very Scientologist view of racism how racism works and affects people. And yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like, because I rewatched it for this, and I've not watched it in years. I did not watch it for Sandy. I did not watch it for Brendan. I'm sorry to both those people. But I watched it for this, and I was like, the amount that doesn't hold up is it's intense.
I think what's not me defending Crash. I think there was a kernel of the idea that in LA, in most places, you were our connection with humans is very tough, right? Because we are not walking around in New York, where people are always running into each other. We have interaction with human beings, and I think there's something interesting there. That is an interesting concept, but the way that this movie is just devil's advocate.
Yeah, and everybody feels like a stereotype. It's not just specifically everybody's so angry throughout the entire movie.
Right, but even that idea, that people are just so loosey-goosey talking about their race.
Right.
I not to get personal on the pod, but literally last week I tweeted about it makes me so uncomfortable when someone brings up my otherness, when someone just casually asks, and who are you? Where are you from? Whatever the fuck. And it's I
Which,
understand.
like, also 2022, why are we still asking that? But
Right.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but like...
No, like, I understand curiosity, but like, it is a different vibe to be like, now, what's an interesting point of conversation? Why are you brown?
Yeah.
And what kind of brownness are you? And like, so this idea, it's very, to me, it's very like, police procedural, like in 86 or something, where it's like, oh, you got those Mexicans over there and like, oh, those Arabs. And like, it's just like very, trying to do a lot. And in the end, I mean, what's also shitty is that I think that there are good performances in this movie. I think Tandy Newton is very good.
Yes.
I think she's like an incredible performer. I don't think Don does much here. Like, this is...
but he's not given much to do. Like,
Right.
I will say, like, the side effect of seemingly him producing and being so involved in this is that his story is like kind of a
Minimal.
Yeah, it's minimal. It's very emotional. It really wants you to like really feel it. Like,
Well,
he's dealing. Yeah.
There is this emotional, when like the racist white guy has to save the black woman, like that is emotional. But like after the shock of that wears off, you're like, wait, why the fuck are we making the fucking racist the fucking hero here? Like, what the
Right.
fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think a lot of movies have problems with, like wanting to redeem racists. It just seems like Hollywood's obsessed with like, and then he was changed for the better when he found the error of his ways. It's like, okay, well, he still put a lot of fucking people through trauma and pain, bitch. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's very misguided, but hey, as previously mentioned, it wins the Academy Award for Best Picture. He was nominated for a BAFTA specifically for his performance and Screen Actors Guild Awards for Best Supporting Actor.
Bizarre.
Also in the same year, he plays the main character in the movie Traitor.
Traitor feels like it wants to be, again, like just one of those. It feels like it wants to be a Denzel Washington movie, honestly, where it's like, high drama, twists and turns, and politiques. But I just don't know that 2006 was the year for a movie about like
domestic terrorism, religious war.
And using a Muslim man for like the CIA.
Yeah. I'm going to drop one truth bomb and then I'm going to quickly move away from that. Do you know who the story by credit for?
I just saw and I don't like it.
Yeah. The story by credit is Steve Martin, as in Wild and Crazy Guy, Steve Martin.
What was Steve Martin doing? Being like, I want to write about Sudanese people.
I know the answer to this, which is he pitched the idea to the producer on a lunch break while shooting the Queen Latifah movie, Bringing Down the House.
Okay, we do need to shut this down. We do need to shut...
A movie I did watch, though, was the 2009 DreamWorks film Hotel for Dogs.
Oh, you did?
I did. I was dead set. I was like, Hotel for Dogs. It's going to be my 1-star review.
Is Don Cheadle the hotel or the dog?
He is both. Weird.
Oh, wow.
A weird choice.
Wow.
No, it's not bad. I'll be honest. I was like, in terms of kids' movies, this is fine. This is like a 3-star thing. But once again, he's playing a social worker in this movie. The two leads are orphans.
Georgia and Lenny. They're the first 2 residents in this hotel. The Hotel for Dogs. No one was turned away when they needed a home. Nobody was abandoned when they were looking for a family. Are you really gonna tell me that we're gonna just abandon them now?
Once again, like a social worker, like somebody who's
5-star review. Gavin said it here
5-star
first.
review.
Hotel for Dogs.
There's a bunch of films in between here and there. He does a lot of indies. He does the United States of Leland. He does
Manic.
He does Manic. He does Talk to Me in 2007. I like
Talk to Me.
I like Talk to Me a lot, actually. And Brooklyn's Finest in 2010. Like there's like lots of dips and bits in here where he like comes in. He occasionally has a lead role. He occasionally doesn't. But it's this sort of era where he's like
doing tip spots.
He's doing tip spots, exactly.
Swordfish.
Yeah. Oh, I always forget he's in Swordfish, but also Swordfish is a bad movie. So but in 2010 he gets the job of playing War Machine in Iron Man 2, James Rhodes. He takes over from Terrence Howard from the first movie, who basically like
wanted more money.
Yeah, didn't want to get paid the same as everybody else.
Did he want more money than Robert Downey Jr.?
Well, he got, I think, and like this might be apocrypha, so don't quote me on this, but basically when they were putting together the original Iron Man, because the original Iron Man is technically an independent film because Marvel at the time was an independent studio,
Right.
They wanted to attach big names to it. And the first person they cast was Terrence Howard. And so he got paid a very large sum of money. And essentially when they were going to do the second one, they're like, okay, everybody's pay is going to be equal across the board except
So
for
you're
Robert
saying
Downey.
that he got more money than Robert Downey in the first movie?
I'm implying it, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to be wrong. But that's basically what I've heard.
Okay.
And they were like, we're leveling the playing field, and he was like, no, I should be making as much money as Robert. Like, and they were like, no, ma'am.
The movie's called Iron Man, not War Machine.
Yeah.
Hitler.
I mean, I see his point. He's the only black person in the movie. Like, but so Don Cheadle gets put into the machine that is Marvel. He shows up. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Captain America. Blah, blah, blah.
It's still ongoing.
Yeah. And so like what he's doing in between these movies is occasionally showing up in another film like he does in the movie Flight, which we talked about in our Robert Zemeckis episode. Once again, playing opposite Denzel Washington and really sort of, but in a very different capacity because he's playing a lawyer that really fucking hates Denzel Washington's guts.
Yeah.
Or showing up in The Guard, which is an independent Irish film, which actually ended up being the highest grossing Irish film for a very long time. It might still be. Yeah. But it was a huge hit in Ireland and written and directed by Martin McDonagh's brother, John Michael McDonagh. So
there's two McDonoughs?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
They both write plays too. Ugh.
I know. I was watching this movie. I was like, oh, this must be a McDonagh joint. I didn't realize it was a different one.
Yeah.
Because
it is a McDonagh joint, but not the same.
The vibes are exactly the same.
What?
Did you grow up in the projects? Or did it not have the projects in Kenosha, Wisconsin?
No, I did not grow up in the projects. It might surprise you to learn, Sergeant Boyle, that I actually come from a very privileged background. And by privilege, I mean prep schools, Yale. I was a Rhodes Scholar. I don't even know what a Rhodes Scholar is.
I do know what a Rhodes Scholar is.
Really? Enlighten me.
Chris Christopherson.
Yeah. Chris Christopherson was a Rhodes Scholar. You are correct.
He's had time to do his TV stuff between House of Lies, Black Monday. He also, in 2015, directed his first movie, Miles Ahead, in which he played Miles Davis. It's not a real biopic in a sense. It is a sort of an imaginary story in which Miles Davis is sort of caught up in a heist with a Rolling Stone writer played by Ewan McGregor, where they go to steal back the masters of his album. And then sort of flashes in and out of his earlier life with his first marriage and the sort of violence that occurred during that. I think it's actually not a bad movie. This was not supposed to be his first film. In 2007, he was trying to adapt Elmore Leonard's Toshamingo Blues, but that fell through. I think this was actually a pretty decent first film. It certainly falls into a lot of the traps of a first movie, in my opinion. It's very showy in a way that like we need to throw in everything in the kitchen sink.
She is in that editing bay, popping off, but it feels like a 30 Rock situation. Like Miles Ahead, the Miles Davis movie. Like, okay. I think that I get that it's like a free form whatever. I just don't think I learned anything about Miles Davis from this movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, also, I think if Miles Davis sounds like that, great. But it is hard to again, it just leans into the 30 Rock of it all. Like, he is doing kooky voice. There's the wig. There's
I don't want to be a jerk, but Miles Davis does kind of sound like that. I mean, I think it's actually a pretty decent portrayal of in terms of embodying Miles Davis.
What? You have my goddamn keys, Dave. I don't have your tape, Miles. I spent all night downstairs with you.
Then what the fuck happened?
Oh shit, those bastards.
What?
What? That trumpet player, the kid, and that dodgy guy from Colombia, they were here last night.
They was at my house last night.
Right here.
The fuck you ain't tell me last night?
I was off my fucking tits last night.
I know he had wanted to make this movie for a long time. This was a passion project for him, but it just feels very vanity driven. You kind of can tell like he wanted to do the specific thing as opposed to like telling the story of this man's life or whatever. I just think perhaps it would have benefited from other eyes, perhaps a little editing here and there. I think it flashes in and out of different time periods far too much. The value to me just seems to be a showcase for him acting as opposed to telling a story.
Right.
And
I will say, I'm not actually a big fan of Ewan McGregor in this movie either. And the funny thing is he said that there would be no movie without Ewan McGregor. Like they needed a big name white man to get attached to it. And when they cast Ewan McGregor, that's when the money started coming in for it.
They crowdfunded on Indiegogo?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel bad because obviously he wanted, or this type of movie is a type of movie for Oscar baity stuff.
Right.
But like,
well, and listen, like it's not like the movie was a disaster. It fucking closed New York Film Festival when it came out. So like it certainly like had an audience and it reached them. But like, yeah, no, I agree. I'm very mixed on it as well too. I mean,
it came and went.
It came and went. Last year in 2021, he did his 6th collaboration with Steven Soderbergh, which was no sudden move. I really like this movie. It's sort of mid-tier Soderbergh for me, but I think Don Cheadle's very good in it. And we briefly, but barely mentioned it when we talked about Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't really know how much to say there is. How much there is to say about this movie. I'll be honest.
I watched it for this movie and I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything about cars. But I will say that like here he is again doing some accent work and I think he's really good in it. This movie is also a like twist on twist on twist on twist type of movie. This is a dad movie. This is
a dad movie. I
TBS. Can see that. I mean, it absolutely is. It's, yeah, but
listen, I'm a dad, okay? Also, the same year, he's the villain in Space Jam: A New Legacy, playing AIG Rhythm. And this was clearly, like, listen, he said he made Hotel for Dogs so his kids would have a movie that they could see with him in it. I think Space Jam was made so his kids could go to college.
Yes.
That's the...
Everybody get up, everybody get down. I don't have anything to say about Space Jam. So sorry, sweetie.
Neither. I saw it and it instantly left my brain. In terms of his personal life, Cheadle married his longtime partner, actress and Rosewood co-star Bridget Coulter in early 2020. The couple had been together for more than 28 years and they have 2 children together. I think it's so funny that like everybody thought that they were married because they'd like come to events together. And listen, you don't have to get married. Nobody's saying you have to get married. But I just love that like when he did, people were like, wait, you're not married? You were not married?
They're like, yeah, whatever. Who cares?
In terms of his political activism, he campaigned to end the genocide in Darfur. He co-founded the Not in Our Watch project, an organization focusing global attention and resources to stop and prevent mass atrocities. He was awarded the BET Humanitarian Award in the year 2007 for his humanitarianism work for the people of Darfur and Rwanda. At the 2007 World Series of Poker, Cheadle and poker player Annie Duke organized an annual charity poker tournament, Ante Up for Africa. He's done a lot of political stuff with George Clooney, done political stuff with Harrison Ford.
Famously, girlies, we might have seen 2019 when he was on SNL and he famously was wearing his was it Black Trans Kids that was on shirt?
Just Protect Trans Kids.
Protect Trans Kids on his shirt while he was introducing the musical guest. And yeah, just so fucking casual, fucking like, I don't gotta say shit. This is it just is.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I listened to him talk about, like even all the way back when he was doing House of Lies, the character of his son was a queer kid, possibly NB. And he was like, doing interviews where people are like, oh, what is it like to, play a father? And he's like, I don't know, just love your kids. Like, it's that simple.
Love them. Just love them, love them. The world's confusing enough and dangerous enough and scary enough without having to justify yourself to your own family. So, just love your kids. We're very fortunate. We have two beautiful kids that give us joy and torment and happiness and ups and downs every day. You just got to love them.
It's like nothing. It's like being a dad.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, he is one of those people that constantly like puts his money where his mouth is, and I think that ties back to what I was saying about, his acting choices. And once again, I don't think he's like scouring every script for the most righteous character, but I do think he is like consciously thinking about like what helps progress humanity through art. And I think that's, I don't know, it's very commendable.
I also
we haven't done somebody like that in a long time. We've had people that like donate to charity and donate to good causes, but like he's on the line.
He just seems like I think there is something. Clearly he's very talented. His craft is really well shaped and formed, but also I think there was something that to be said, like it seems like people truly enjoy working with him.
Yes.
He's been working for such a long time, and I think people respect him, and so he has the charisma, to be charismatic enough to hold his own against like the traditional Hollywood hunks of the 90s or whatever, to seamlessly come into Iron Man universe and just like own that character. And I do think like, when you think of that generation of Black American actors, like it kind of is like him and Denzel, right? Like at that level, who are also being able to play men in love, being able to play like not having to do, the stereotypical roles and stuff.
Right. Well, that was one of the interesting things about watching the documentary about Top Dog, Underdog, is, he says when at the end of that play, something shocking happens and people would ask him like, well, what does it mean? Does it mean this? Is it about slavery? Is it about racism? And he's like, no, it's about those two people. Like because those people are Black, you're bringing that to it.
Right.
You're the audience. You have to feel like, and that's sort of, I found this really great, he went on MSNBC during all the George Floyd protests and did like a special with them about racism in America. Like he's really attuned to all this stuff. He's not somebody who's living outside it, who's like this rich person.
And I have personally, I know a lot of dudes, a lot of people that are in the streets, a lot of people that are in neighborhoods, a lot of gang-affiliated folk. I've never had guns pulled on me by any of them, but I've had guns pulled on me by the LAPD under the Daryl Gates Hammer program countless times. Had my life threatened countless times for doing nothing, but walking down the street. And this is a systemic, institutionalized problem that we are all now fully aware of. Some of us have known for many, many years. And we are seeing the watershed moment once again.
But you're right. He, on the other side of that, he is being afforded these opportunities that like maybe a lot of, other Black actors are not. And
right. I think that's like, I don't know what that is. It definitely feels like he is in a league of, truly him and Denzel are in a league of their own. Not to like compare them, but like, it seems like they somehow have been able to climb that Hollywood ladder and like become A-listers. People listen to them. They are not treated as like, little, but and on top of that, one of the movies that talked to me, like at the end of it, I was like really shook and like kind of emotional about. And again, this is about
a movie
like
that he executive produced.
Yeah, and this is a movie about like another Black American, a real guy who never got like the flowers he deserved, and it felt like an important story. Like, is it the perfect movie? No, but like I think it is important that stories like Petey Green, who was a DJ in DC, who was a felon, and like kind of, you know,
he spoke his mind. He spoke his mind in a format and a time in which people didn't want you to do that. They wanted you to be rehearsed. They wanted you to be poised. They wanted you to be white.
Yeah.
He went out there and he spoke the truth. And that's sort of where that movie, you know, the core of that is.
Yeah. And I think that, just to like give a little shout out to like Chiwetel Ejiofor and Taraji P. Henson, like,
yeah,
a great trio of actors who just fucking kill that movie.
If we're shouting people out, Casey Lemons, who directed it, you know, great, amazing filmmaker. Yves Bayou, like so talented. Yeah. But I think that sort of wraps up Don Cheadle. Why don't we get into our picks? Why don't we start with our 1-star reviews, get the negative out of the way so we can get to that good.
Oh God, this is difficult.
This is difficult because as I said before, there are bad movies. He's in some not great movies in this list, but I don't think it's rare that he doesn't show up or that he doesn't find a way to make the character interesting. I mean, there's a couple, you know, you mentioned Swordfish. It's something I did not revisit. I can barely remember that, but like, that's such a minor thing. I don't know. Is there anything before we do our picks? Is there anything that you saw him in that you didn't love? I mean, obviously you're not the world's biggest Miles Ahead fan.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, there's a part of me that's tempted to choose Miles Ahead just because he's so involved in it, and like, you know, his handprints are all over it clearly as a director, and maybe it also shows that, like, you know, there are limits to his talent. Like, I think he's a very good actor. I'm sure the directing was fine, I guess, but like, I think I think he needed like someone else to help with the story. I think, and the style, frankly. Like, I think if he had a little bit more of collaborators who bought in and were like, we need to really, you know, if we're going to give Miles Davis his due and his moment, like, it cannot be just like Miles Davis fucking running around like shooting people to get these tracks. And like, I thought there was a lot of weird plots in this movie that were like not about him, really. Like, it's just like kind of random shit.
I mean, I feel like you have a similar issue with Miles Ahead that I had with the Rat Pack movie, which was and once again, it's, for me, the Rat Pack's not a bad performance. It's a good performance. And also, like, if you're going to get cast as Sammy Davis Jr., like, jump at that. Like, jump at that. Yeah. He's an icon. But also, like, it's the weirdest casting in the world. But that's the whole movie. That's the vibe.
But I guess, like, if I have to choose a 1-star moment, like, I get Space Jam.
Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Yeah,
but put some credit on that full name.
LeBron James's Space Jam: A New Legacy. I just think, you know, on top of being a bad movie,
movie is a strong word.
Right. A part of being of that bad corporate synergistic moment commercial, it's the clearest cash grab. It's like the clearest, like, nothing burger of a performance. Like, he had to like walk on a green screen for like a weekend and then said, okay, bye. I talked about how there are movies where Don Cheadle can show up and be Don Cheadle, like in the Marvel movies, and it's fine. And then there are the movies where he like really puts his chadusy in it. Like, you know, even movies that I didn't like No Sudden Move, like, I could never watch that movie again. I'd be fine. But I think he's really working. He's, you know, he is being thoughtful, all those things. Space Jam: A New Legacy is neither of those things. Yeah. It's just like all the charm and charisma is like drained out.
It's so funny. When I watched that movie last year, I'm guessing under duress. I don't know why I did it. I was like, why Don Cheadle? And part of me was like, was he the only person who said yes? Or
Right.
was it the amount of zeros at the end of the check? And like, it could be either, but like,
it's like, does he have a deal with Warner Brothers? Like, what's going on?
There's just nothing to that. I mean, he's literally playing an AI. So like, I guess he's doing the thing by being like kind of personalityless, but also the most like, you know, it's the type of role that a second-rate Jim Carrey impersonator would do. Like, I don't know.
They could have hired like any TikTok comedian and they would have done better. You know, like
it's like an Ashton Kutcher role, baby. Like, like.
Oh, and what's the tragedy is that like, and maybe this is my nostalgia glasses, and also like Michael Jordan, whatever. But like the original Space Jam had a lot of charm, had a lot of, and nothing had nothing to do with Michael Jordan. But just like, it wasn't a cash grab. It was like actually original and funny and like clever.
I don't think the original's perfect. Shout out to my friend Erin, who loves that movie with her whole heart. But I do think there is something about it where it's at least like it doesn't feel as clearly corporate synergistic as this, where they're just like. And here's a reference to Clockwork Orange for all the kids out there.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
Who dares disturb the great and powerful algae?
Look at your faces. You were terrified. Priceless. See? Nothing to be afraid of.
The computer's black.
I can see that. Hello.
Okay, what about you, Gavin?
I am gonna bring up something that we did talk about briefly before. It's funny because I thought we were gonna breeze by it, so I was like, yes, I can talk about it a lot. But that's 2008's Traitor, which is a movie I didn't like, but also I don't think he's giving anything. Like, I think a lot of it is, and part of that is probably the writing. You know, this is a movie directed by Jeffrey Notchmanoff, from a screenplay by Jeffrey Notchmanoff, from a story by Steve Martin, previously mentioned. Once again, as you mentioned, he plays Samir Horn, who's an Arabic-speaking Sudanese American and a devout Muslim who, for half of the movie, you're led to believe is also an arms trader who sells bombs to terrorists to commit terrorist acts. And then you find out, as a twist midway through, that he's actually been working for the CIA without anybody else knowing. Jeff Daniels is his handler, and he is like conveniently not told anybody else about this op.
Right. No, literally nobody. They have all these big war room meetings about like, you know, all the FBI, and he's like, yeah, he seems really bad, guys. You should get him. Like,
and
what?
so Guy Pearce and Neil McDonough spend the entire movie trying to hunt him down, even though he's on their side. And yeah, I think this movie really thought it was saying
she was doing
stuff.
something. Yeah.
And I feel bad because there's a lot of talent behind it. I mean, Archie Punjabi playing Chandra Dawkin, who is Don Cheadle's girlfriend in the movie, and there's lots of talk about religion and like what it means to be like
Muslims. You can't kill anybody, and like I kill people, and like
a good person as well. There's a big morality play going on, but in the end, it's not really saying anything. It wants to eat its cake and have it too, which like you can't have it both ways. You can't like moralize this situation and then also be like, yeah, but look at this Muslim blowing stuff up. Like,
right, because the movie just is so uninterested in the character. It just kind of tells you, but like, we don't know why he's doing this. Why is he? How did he get involved with the CIA? What the fuck? What for?
And there's a lot of scenes where you have characters like asking what his motivation is, and the scenes end before anybody comes to any sort of conclusion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nothing burger, and it sucks because like I think there is a I don't want to see a version of this movie that like gets it right, because I think it's just kind of not a great movie in general. But like there is a version that like gives him something meatier to chew on. But maybe they were also scared. Maybe they were like, this is already a controversial topic as it is. We don't want to make anything too big. We want to everything stay on the fence as much as it can.
Right. Well, I mean, like, again, in 2008, like, we were certainly still in Iraq, you know,
Right.
Afghanistan, all that shit. And, like, to be making a movie about this is like fucking GOP jerk off material, you know, like
Yes.
it's like there are untold numbers of people living in America who are
just waiting to be activated.
waiting to be activated with their secret fucking code, who are going to walk onto a bus and at the same time blow up buses all across America. And like
Yeah,
what the fuck? Like,
it's like the funny thing is too is the movie also doesn't ever want to deal with the consequences of surveillance state, and I think nothing could be more telling than that. That there's literal pictures of Don Cheadle's character on the news, like on the news everywhere. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, he's like free walking around New York City, and Guy Pearce is like, yeah, like I cleared your name and scrubbed all. Like, that man would be hunted for the rest of his life. There would be makeshift mobs. You know, he wouldn't last a full day in New York City after that. Somebody would stab him in an alleyway. Like, that's...
Yeah. The movie, like you said, wants it all, and unfortunately
doesn't get any of it.
Yeah. Nor...
I have kept you completely off the books. My boss... his boss. Nobody knows you even exist.
Look, I don't give a shit about any of that, okay? We need to rethink things.
If you don't succeed, we may not get another chance.
How far are you willing to take this? We've got blood on our hands. We've killed innocent people.
Yeah, and if we stop now, they'll have died for nothing. This is a war. You do what it takes to win.
You know who you sound like, right?
We're the good guys, Samir.
Oh, I know.
But I think those are two very good picks, especially Space Jam. I thought it might come up, but you never know. Why don't we get into our 5-star reviews and talk about the performances we actually did really like. As much as I made fun of his accent in Ocean's 11, I actually think he's a lot of fun in all 3 of the Ocean's movies. Shout out to my friend Jim, who said they were very excited for this episode because he was their favorite part when they were a little kid in the Ocean's movies. So like, you mentioned Manic earlier, which is not a film that I think is amazing by any means, but it's such a specific point in film history. They shot it on the exact same cameras, the PD-150s that we used when I was in college from 2002 to 2006. Like, we really thought every movie was going to fucking look like this in the future. And I think his performance is really nuanced and hard, and he really dug into this character. And the scene where he like tries to prove his point that anger doesn't solve anything is so fucking good.
Okay, you feel better now? Huh? Did you fix Kenny now? Is Kenny all better now? How about you? You all better now? You think you're the only one who gets pissed off and wants to fucking rage? I can break shit. I can scream like a motherfucker all day long. Now what? Kenny's still fucked up and I'm still miserable. I guess I gotta break some more shit. Get up, Lyle. Get up right now, Lyle. Get up!
I quite liked Manic, and I think he's very good in it. Again, it's so interesting. I love when he makes weird choices, and I would highly... I think Manic is also on YouTube. Just,
is it? That's funny.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested in like a tidy, kind of like very deep, the movies... It's kind of tragique. It's there are spots where it gets hard to watch, but like it's I think it's worth your time.
There's another movie too before we get into our picks that we didn't even mention that I watched today. It took me forever to fucking find it, but if you guys want to find it, it's on Daily Motion. It was a Sundance film that was picked up by Showtime called Things Behind the Sun. It's a very hard movie. It's him and Kim Dickens and Gabriel Mann. It is not an easy watch. It is very rough territory. Everybody's so good. Kim Dickens should be a huge star, and she's not.
She's a really great actress. Well, there you go. Okay, so I think then there are a couple options for a 5-star review, or a pick, but I think, Yeah, I have to go with Hotel Rwanda. I think that
it's a great performance. He deserved that nomination for it.
Yeah, the movie really hit me in an aggressive way. Yeah, so Hotel Rwanda is a 2004 film directed by Terry George. It is based on true fucking horrifying events. This basically civil war breaks out in Rwanda, and it's these two like they're not even like ethnic groups. They're just like two different cultures.
Right. They were groups that were separated
by fucking
the colonizers.
Yeah.
And they came in and they were basically like measuring fucking noses.
Yeah.
And,
they basically were like, okay, are you a good black person or not? And like made some people, they basically labeled some people as good ones and others as bad, and which led to this fucking civil war. Don Cheadle plays Paul, who is this manager of a hotel. The hotel is very fancy. It is owned by a fucking French company, I believe, or some fucking white company. And he kind of is, him and his wife, they are from different of those social classes. So they have, it's kind of controversial, I guess, in the neighborhood. And the UN is there because they're about to like broker some peace talks or whatever. Even though those peace talks go through and the president signs them or whatever, this other class decides to fucking start the civil war, and it's chaos, and all these white people are at the hotel. Essentially, like, very long and complicated story short, the UN is like, great, we're here to help save the day, but JK, it's only for the white people. Literally, there is no evacuation security plan for Rwandans to leave. And Paul, in this, dramatization at least, is key in saving a bunch of lives. And I just think first of all, honey, there's no accent shaky quakiness here. He is so good. I think he does such a good job of playing this manager who is caught in an incredibly awful situation, trying to keep his family together, trying to there's that moment where he gathers everyone in the hotel and he says, this is not a refugee camp. We cannot be a refugee camp. This has to be a 5-star hotel, because as soon as it becomes a place for refugees, they're coming after us.
There will be no rescue, no intervention force. We can only save ourselves. Many of you know influential people abroad. You must call these people. You must tell them what will happen to us. Say goodbye. But when you say goodbye, say it as though you are reaching through the phone and holding their hand. Let them know that if they let go of that hand, you will die. We must shame them into sending help. Most importantly, this cannot be a refugee camp. The Interahamwe believe that the Mikoline is a 4-star Sabina hotel. That is the only thing that is keeping us alive.
There's a moment where he can't find his wife and kids in the hotel, and he finally finds them, and they're like in a tub, and she has the shower head, but like in her hands, it's retractable, whatever. And she thinks it's a bad guy and it's him. And he's like, what were you going to do with that? And they break out into this laughter, this relief. And so, I don't know, this movie is very human. I don't know. I walked away from this movie just being like, all we have is each other,
Yeah.
and that is a very powerful thing. And the things that we can do for each other is we don't even understand sometimes how much we can do for each other. And to bring back to Don Cheadle, I think he just is carrying this entire movie. Like I said, everyone in this movie is very good, but I think he is just like the beating heart. He has to be, oh my God, when he is driving back from getting supplies and he's like, why is the road so bumpy? And it's bodies. They're literally driving over bodies.
That's
gets back.
the scene I remember the most, and that's why I almost wish the movie was more graphic. And not because I want to watch them drive over bodies, but because I think the selling of that scene is so good, but like maybe fails to convey a little bit to the audience, like these are human beings.
Well, he like tells the guy who's driving, he's like, you do not tell anyone what we saw. And then he immediately goes into like a storage room or whatever, and just has a complete breakdown. He's having
my favorite scene in the movie. Yeah.
Because he's trying to he's the manager. He's supposed to be in charge. He's the one who's like saving people, right? Like he's the one who can like communicate with these generals and like try and negotiate, safe passage or whatever. But he's just so desperate to like keep his family alive. It's crazy.
And not to just keep drawing this out, but I think the important thing in that scene is he's trying to tie a tie. And it's like this symbol of civilized society, and it's like, how are we're not civilized. We're literally people killing other people. Like we're monsters in this situation. And it's how do you pull yourself together and make yourself presentable? How do you play your part in this grand scheme when people are literally gunning down other people and you're running over bodies? And
I think I think I watched Talk to Me Later that day or maybe the next day, but I was like, God, these are both obviously very different stories, but stories that white people don't fucking know about and don't care about. And and I just thought about like, Don is really doing us a service by delivering great performances about stories that everyone should know about.
And that's a great transition point because my 5-star review is Talk to Me.
Oh shit!
I know I'm not going to win the poll this week. I don't care. Talk to Me came out in 2007. Previously mentioned, it's a biographical film directed by Kasi Lemmons. Don Cheadle plays Petey Green. Is this the most truthful story of the Petey Green story? Probably not. Yeah, exactly. The Petey Green's family did not cooperate with the film, and they criticized it for taking liberties on the portrayal and those of Petey Green himself and those around him. Great, whatever. Here's a fun fact. We talk about this all the time. Movies don't necessarily have a responsibility to the truth.
No, it's a movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a documentary. Ed Wood, one of my favorite, it was my 5-star review of the Tim Burton film. I know so much about Ed Wood. 90% of it's fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about a real person. And I think this is a great example of that, where it's like we're gonna play the hits. We're gonna it's gonna talk to you about how Petey Green reacted to the death of Martin Luther King, about his womanizing ways, about the substance abuse issues in there, this sort of back and forth relationship he had with Dewey Hughes, who was his producer, and the strained relationship there. This relationship he had with Vernell Watson, played by Taraji P. Henson. Also, all of that, and the fact that the movie is written by Michael Jeanette, who is a screenwriter and actor, but also happens to be Dewey Hughes' son.
Casual.
And so I will say there are points when I watch this movie where I'm like, is this a Petey Green movie or is this a Dewey Hughes movie? And but I don't think that's necessarily important, because I think the performance that Don Cheadle is giving, this verbose, this, he's a gregarious, quick on his feet, occasionally con man-esque performance of Petey Green, who meant so much to so many people in the DC area, who really, there's a scene where he goes to be on the Tonight Show and he really blows it, because he's just like, this, he keeps telling people, I don't want to be here. This is not what I'm doing. And he gets in front of that audience and he's just like, you're a bunch of fake crackers and I don't want to perform for you. And
that scene was, I was like clutching my neck line, and I was like, but to have the grace and to know yourself well enough to be like, I have nothing to say to you.
Right.
You are not my people. You are not my audience. I'm not here
I don't want you to laugh at me.
Yeah.
I want you to laugh with me, and you're not going to do that.
Yeah, you're going to laugh at me because I'm like, you think I'm a little sideshow freak because I'm
Yeah.
a black man who's a con, and like, you're going to think like, oh, what's that crazy black man doing on stage? You know, like, and he's like, no.
Y'all gonna have to forgive me if I'm a little nervous. I just ain't never been in front of as many white folk before. I know my manager do is backstage right now about to have a heart attack saying, oh, Lord, please don't let this fool go out here and say something crazy. But he knows I always speak the truth. Yeah. Well, the truth is, I'm just an ex-con, y'all. And the people that live in the world that I come from, well, most of them can't even afford TVs. They listen to me on the radio. And they do that because I keeps it real. When they out there laughing, I know they laughing with me, not at me. But I look out here at y'all, and all I see is a room full of white folk waiting to hear some jokes. I ain't got nothing to say to you people. Y'all ain't ready for P-Town.
The people I talk to laugh with me because we have a shared experience and understanding of things. You're just going to laugh at me because, you know, the novelty.
The problem that people have with biopics is they tend to think everything is important. You know, we need to really dig into this character. What was the relationship with their mother? What was their relationship with their milkman? And it's like, we don't need all that. Like we have those movies and sure they win awards, but like, I think the best ones are the ones that kind of play with the form and play with the structure. And I think this does a really good job with that. Is it 100% perfect? No, I don't think it is. I think in the end, I maybe gave this like 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, but I truly think it's a 5-star performance, and I think it's a 5-star story and worth watching. And as you mentioned before, shout out to Chiwetel Ejiofor and Taraji P. Henson, but also Cedric the Entertainer, Mike Epps. Like there's some really great performances in not huge roles here. Even, if I do have to compliment a white person, Martin Sheen is very good in his brief. Yeah. And so like, I think there is
what in blue blazes.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good here, and it's worth checking out. And if you're listening to the show, trying to find movies to check out, I think you could do much worse than talk to me. It took me a little bit to find it, though. I will say this one was not as easy as some of the other movies, which is crazy to me that it's a movie from 2007, but
right. I also think the ending scene where Chiwetel Ejiofor gives like the eulogy.
Yeah.
I was just like, powerful stuff. Like, I like this movie a lot.
It's a great movie. Okay, so that's our picks. Why don't we get into our fast forward? But before we do, why don't we do a little mixed reviews review?
Sure. My 1-star review was 2021's Space Jam: A New Legacy.
And my 1-star review was 2008's Traitor.
My 5-star review was 2004's Hotel Rwanda.
And my 5-star review was 2007's Talk to Me. All right, let's get into that fast forward. So we know he's on the Marvel train, and
how do you like him as Rhodey?
I love him as Rhodey. I actually think he's maybe better than Terrence Howard, but I do think, okay, and follow me down this road.
Okay.
He has been in the Marvel movies since 2010. 12 years. That is 12 years. He has played second fiddle in everything from an Iron Man movie to a Captain America movie to an Avengers movie. Like, he's now going to be in the Secret Invasion TV show, and they're finally giving his character a movie in Armor Wars. But like, why? Like, why? And I get that, like, War Machine is not a huge character in the comic books, or it took War Machine a while to build that audience in the comic books that Iron Man has, but Iron Man was also not the world's most popular comic book character when they started making these movies. And it's one of those things that's frustrating. Like, we did an episode on Chris Hemsworth. Is Don Cheadle a better actor than Chris Hemsworth? Absolutely.
Hello?
Absolutely. Not even a question. Why would I even say that out loud? But what is the thing that separates? Why isn't Don Cheadle playing Thor? What is the... And
yeah, I think... I'm trying to think, like, first of all, do we think Armor Wars is going to be a movie that's actually out in theaters?
It is. It was going to be a TV show. And Disney like saw the early scripts or whatever and bumped it to being a feature. So they have to like rewrite it. But they did announce.
But we think it's going to be a theatrical release, not a Disney Plus movie.
Okay. Yeah, they did announce that it's going to be a theatrical.
Okay, because like in my head, I'm like a little bit worried because I'm like, it's Armor Wars. It's not War Machine the movie. So like, is it going to be like? Is Don Cheadle going to have to fucking die at the end of this movie so that Ironheart or all these Iron Babies can like take up whatever?
I love the Iron Babies. Unsung heroes of the Marvel Universe. Yeah, I mean, I hope not, obviously.
Right now, currently, Rhodey needs machines to use his legs, right?
Yes. Yeah, he was injured in Civil War and
whatever.
Yeah. I hope he's making so much money. I have no idea how much money he's making. And I know they sign everybody to like a 12 movie contract or 15, whatever absurd. But I do hope he's making a ton of money doing these. And I hope what it does is it facilitates him to continue to do these other roles in movies. As we mentioned, White Noise comes out, it's this very famous Don DeLillo book, like, so
it's Noah Baumbach, right?
It's Noah Baumbach. It's like Noah Baumbach's first like venturing into adaptation. I am not a Noah Baumbach fan, though I liked Marriage Story, so maybe.
Yeah, some people of the reviews I've seen, some people are like either really into it or they're not.
Yeah.
Like it's like, but I think that's all Noah Baumbach movies. It's kind of like you either into it or you're not. So whatever.
But he is also, I totally slipped my mind, but he's also currently the narrator of the new Wonder Years on ABC.
That's right. Yeah.
And so like he has jobs and he's getting money and he's getting paid. But part of me thinks that he is maybe more undervalued than he is actually valued. And I think nothing could be more obvious than that. Do you know how many times he's been nominated for an Emmy?
A lot?
11.
Wow.
11
never won?
times. He's never won. And
Stupid.
the last Emmy nomination was for 59 seconds showing up in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. 2 scenes, one of which he doesn't speak. He even tweeted it out. I don't understand this nomination.
Was it like a supporting actor thing?
It was for guest star.
Oh. Must have been a light year.
Yeah. But that's the thing. And part of me is like, listen, if you think this man is like, I don't think there's a hierarchy. I don't think there's a like it's their time sort of situation. But if you think this man is that talented, give him the fucking award or stop nominating him.
Right.
Because at a certain point it becomes embarrassing. And like, why? Why isn't he winning them?
Yeah, what I think is like the problem perhaps is my hot take is I think Don Cheadle is a hilarious actor, and he does, but people don't recognize him. Like all of his Black Monday stuff and all of the Veronica Mars show. What is it called? Lying
House of Lies.
Lying liars that lie. He got a bunch of noms but never won because people are like, oh, we can't give Donald Cheadle an award for being funny. But unfortunately,
but at the reverse of that, like the Rat Pack, the A Lesson Before Dying, these dramatic roles, like why aren't those getting the traction?
But see, I don't think, I'm less interested in those types of roles that he's doing where it's like very like, and that's the difference. Like, I don't think like, whereas Denzel is really like the drama girl, I think like Don Cheadle is like in that lane, but I think he's got way more like facets and layers to him and like superpowers that I just don't think people are like utilizing that well.
Yeah.
Because even like, Boogie Nights where like he is like this fully fleshed, you know, rounded character. And these dramatic things, it's just like one note, you know, like just be like the thing, like, you know, and it's just so boring. Even like in No Sudden Move, it's like it's one thing.
Right.
I prefer him in these comedies like Black Monday. He gets to do it's dramatic, it's funny, it's up and down, it's really a showcase for him.
I felt like him in No Sudden Move was like him. It was like Don Cheadle casting Ewan McGregor in Miles Ahead. It was like Soderbergh was like, you're trustworthy and a big enough name. I can I can get you in here and then we'll get some more, you know, you're the star power.
Yeah, but I that's all, even like with Miles Ahead, I'm like, just doing like the one thing where it's like, I'm dramatic Don Cheadle, and it's just like kind of like, The Guard. I think he's incredible in The Guard. Like, but again, he gets to do the up and down. You know, like I like when he's showing us the full colors of his rainbow.
Absolutely. Are you looking forward to White Noise? Because as I said, I'm not a Baumbach fan, so I'm very tepid. I've seen the final scene, and the final scene is apparently the thing to watch for. So like,
oh, okay. I don't know what the movie is about. It's a train accident that casts chemical waste over the town. Okay, great.
It's like 3 different stories. It's complicated. The book is very complicated.
I feel like this is a movie that, like, you know, when I go home for Christmas or whatever, like this is a movie you put on with your mom, like, because it's got people.
I don't know. I think your mom's gonna be like, I don't like this, but that might be me. It's very heady. I don't know. This is not. This is certainly not. This is certainly not like when I put on Call Jane for my mom. Like,
well, last year, me and my mom watched Don't Look Up.
Well, maybe I don't know. You know,
which was a movie that sucks, but again, like in the same vein, it's a Netflixy, starry, you know.
No, so then it might
movie.
Be. Yeah, it might actually be right up the alley then, for all I know.
I just feel like my mom, a lot of moms perhaps, are like, ooh, you know, like that Adam Driver guy from Star Wars and Don Cheadle, like they have a movie together, like on Netflix.
That Greta Gerwig. I hear she's directing now.
I mean, I'll see. You know, like we've got a lot to watch for our wrap up, but you know, I am more interested in Don breaking out of these, like there's a little bit of like he's being typecast a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And these like serious things, like the traitor types of it all, like, you know, Crash of it all. It's just, you know, I prefer him a little bit more loosey-goosey.
I would, you know, I feel like such a broken record every episode. I would love to see him on stage. I would love to see him do a play.
Imagine if he ever came back after doing that off-Broadway top. I can't.
And that's honestly, if you watch that documentary, you get to see clips of him doing it, and like he's very good.
And honestly, like Black theater right now is just so good.
You make it sound like a fad, but I understand what you're saying. But you're right. You're right. Yeah.
There's never been a better time for, like, you know, there's so many shows on right now by Black theater makers, and Donnie, girl, we need you, babe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just think he's so fucking talented. I almost don't know a way to wrap this up, because I just want to keep complimenting him.
But talented, you know? But also just like a good person.
Yes.
You know, cool. Like and again, I can't stress enough, like we don't think about him fast enough when you think about literally A-listers and holding their own at that level of talent, you know, holding their own against these, like, you know, generic fucking names.
He absolutely deserves to have his name above the credits.
Girly,
like it's without a question, you know.
We are forgetting even Captain Planet. Like,
the Funny or Die shit. Yeah.
Like, again, like that is he doesn't take himself too seriously. He is just so fucking funny. And yeah, I'm hopeful that he continues to make his own work. and continues to find these small, weird little things to do. Because, yeah, unfortunately, the Marvel verse has kind of trapped him. I don't think he has enough time to do that shit right now.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful after Armor Wars, and I'm calling it now, bitch. He's not for long.
You're like, he's out. Rhodey's done.
I am calling it. He's gonna.
But that'll be so, like, what a fucking waste then. By making him do, because, like, you know, like you said, he's doing the Robert Downey Jr. thing, but he's a better actor.
He is better.
Like, that's
he was just as charismatic. He's just as sexy. He has all of the things that Robert Downey Jr. has.
Yeah.
But also, like, and it is able to do character acting like Robert Downey. Like, they are very like good mirrors of each other. But I think, like, can Robert Downey Jr. do Hotel Rwanda?
No. That's the thing. Like, and he tried. He did the Judge, which was a disaster. So, like,
yeah. And so I think, like, he has everything that he has and more. Like, blows him out of the water as far as, like, acting goes. And I hope that he gets the money and respect, and all the things that come along with it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that wraps up Don Cheadle. You know, if you want to contact us about this episode or any of our previous episodes, you can always find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews. Well, it is still there and it remains unnazified.
Not unnazified.
Jesus Christ, it's sinking fast, man.
We're also on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
If you want to email us, you can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to us or any of our back catalog of episodes, you can find us on a plethora of podcast apps. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, you know, all of the nonsense, every little thing.
Wherever your ear holes listen to things, we're there.
And if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, stop by, leave us a 5-star rating, and write us a little review, and we'll read it on the show. If you don't want to write a review, just leave us a 5-star rating. We're okay with that.
Yeah. Do what you want with your body. You can find merch over at Redbubble. We're also on TikTok. Join us on the Patreon.
Absolutely, join us on the Patreon. Bonus content. You can talk to us through the Discord.
The Discord.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm fading fast, folks.
And we will announce shortly. We'll have a little game night for the holidays. We'll figure that out because we only have one episode left in the year.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be a good one. And then in the new year, we will do our wrap up of the year. So, girlies, I hope you enjoy the holiday season. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.